So we went up through France and spent a couple of nights and so forth, and finally got back to Zurich. And so the instructions were to just park the yellow banana on a city street, and whoever was coming on the boat next would pick it up. And so we found kind of a little innocuous place and just parked the car, and I think we left the keys in it and left it unlocked or something. I don't remember all the details, but I can't remember who followed us on the boat.
Trish, boat?
Oh yes, that's exactly, yeah. So she arrived like 3 or 4 weeks later, and she said that the windshield wiper was about 4 inches off the glass from all of the tickets that had been written for this car that was now, illegally parked. And so she just took them all and put them in the glove compartment and drove off. And I don't know if the yellow banana ever went back to Switzerland or not.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So.
Now, the yellow banana was, in our married life, was in more stories. And we left it in Barcelona, and we couldn't find a place to leave it. And the Maine police station was right near where the boat was. So we drove over to the Barcelona police headquarters. I just pulled in and parked it in the police parking lot, and went away for, I think, about 4 or 5 months. And when we were back in Italy, I took a train. Had no idea what we'd find. I took a train up through Italy, through France, back to Spain, to Barcelona. I got up and walked down to the police station, and there it was. I saw it. And there was a police car parked right in front of it, with 2 policemen eating their lunch in that car. So I just walked up as if I owned it, which I did. Opened the door, got in, and the damn thing started. And I honked twice, and I said, and they said, they smiled, backed up, and I drove back to Italy, and that's where it was when you, or no, yeah, I guess I've forgotten where I
Well, we picked it up in Naples.
That's right, they drove it. I drove it back to, because we visited the on Mount Etna. What are the 2 places?
Oh, yeah, Vesuvius and
Herculaneum.
Herculaneum, yeah.
Pompeii
Pompeii.
and Herculaneum.
Yep.
And but that car could have written a book about.
I remember it. I was riding in the far, far back of that. It was, yeah. But we got all six people were in it, and we drove up to the edge of Mount Vesuvius, and you could drive down inside it,
Yeah.
which was a very unsettling experience to just sort of be,
An active volcano.
Yeah.
And the other Beth, his then wife, we had a surfboard, we had 2 surfboards, 2 sailing, what do you call them, windsurfers. No, yeah, windsurfers. And I still have pictures of Beth, who just had no tops, just the bottoms on her bathing suit, windsurfing off of St. Bernard. Well, the French do it, the Italians do it, why shouldn't I do it? And
Well, we all did it at that point.
well, anyway,
We sort of dared each other.
Yeah.
yeah, but back in those days, you 2 didn't have that much to.
Who would know? Who would
Yeah.
notice?
Yeah, what are those 2 boys doing? Look at their long hair. Anyway, we've had some great adventures, Richard,
Yes, we have.
before and since, and trying to follow your career. You are the Renaissance man of our life.
Well,
There's no two ways about it. And you may remember when I said, you come live in our little house and paint.
Oh, I know.
And I was really serious that maybe it'd happen, and I didn't know how we'd do it, but we would make it happen.
Yeah.
But you went on to bigger and better things.
Well, I don't know who, the road not taken, but
One of my favorite Dick Shelton stories is he came up from atomic submarines to work at the medical school, and he was a contraction grants officer, and all this paperwork had to be signed and had to be right, and he checked it off. And you went up to Alex Reeves' lab, and you opened.
no, it was Jose Ochoa.
Oh, that's right, Jose Ochoa.
Yes.
And the mad.
First of all, one little detail in this is that when I started working, Don had thought that I needed a master key. So I had one. Go on.
That's important. It is. So he opened every door in the buildings. And he opened the door at about 7 or 8 at night, whatever. He was working late for some reason. And he had finished reviewing this thing, and he just went in to leave it on Ochoa's desk. He opened the door, and there was Jose on the floor making love to a woman. And
His lab assistant.
and he put it on the desk and walked out. And Jose came by your office the next morning and said, handed back the signed paperwork and said, Dick, I hope you will use your discretion.
I hope I can rely on your discretion.
And
Which obviously he couldn't because I told Don.
but am I wrong on this, that later on you were at a party and there was Jose with this same woman? And it was his wife?
Yeah, yeah. But I think I waited several years before I told you that story. So I was discretion light.
There was the guy that ran the mail room at the medical school. There was a little gallery.
Yes.
And one day, all the students were out. I was walking by, and the students were all like, shh. And the mailboxes were on a slight slant, but if you looked just right, you could see the back of the mailroom. And here he was, the mail guy who ran the mailroom and so on, making love to this blonde on one of the sorting tables. And the students were enjoying every minute of it, and me too. And later on, 30 years later, I go to the same dentist for years. There's a new dental assistant in the office, and I looked at her, and she was a little bit larger, but it took me about 2 or 3 visits. I finally said, who is that woman? Oh, she's so-and-so. She used to work in the medical school. So she ended up as a general hygienist. And she married the guy. And they're still married today. They live in Grantham, and he's does something in Eastman. I think he works in the Eastman offices. But
when we were both at the medical school, the wife of one of the researchers was a woman named Mrs. Wu, who was Chinese. Do you remember Mrs. Wu?
She was a cook.
She was a cook.
Yeah.
And so she ran her a little restaurant outside of Kellogg Auditorium, and Mrs. Wu spoke broken English, but she absolutely played favorites and just no bones about it. She just, if she liked you, and so I was in line one day behind a person who was, I was behind a researcher, Stan Freuner, and in front of him was a visitor, somebody nobody knew, and so this guy was ordering something, and so Mrs. Wu sort of was putting everything together and hands him his plate, and he says, "Oh, no, you misunderstood. I wanted half of that and half of that." And so she sort of looked at him a little crossly, and then Stan Freuner says, "Oh, that's all right, Mrs. Wu. I'll take that one." And so she starts to hand it to him, and then she sees who it is, and she puts a little bit more of both things on and hands it to this guy. And it was just such blatant favoritism.
Well, she did that with Don.
I mean, Mrs. Wu getting the space for a restaurant in the medical school. I was in control of the space, but the guy who was really controlling was Marsh Tenney. And she was a protege. Her husband worked for Marsh Tenney,
Oh,
who
yeah.
had been a dean way back. And so I made it possible. But she's cooking Chinese food, and the smell was going down. The auditorium there was really a lecture hall, and they'd have bodies and everything, and these odors. And it cost us something like $20,000 to finally put fans in. It wasn't to get rid of the restaurant, it's how do you please Mrs. Wu? So I got these fans installed, and from that point on, if I went through the line, I could do no wrong.
Oh, yes.
I think
Those were the days. my
They were.
friend,
Those were
never
fun
end.
times. Yep.
Kent said, "Hey, let's go water skiing. I got a boat." So we went down, put the boat in the water, went water skiing. And so I just remember that Kent was driving and I was spotting, and Beth was my first wife. And so she got up and she was wearing a little two-piece thing, and somehow the knot up here wasn't tied, and so one part came down, and I was sort of trying to point to her, and she was just holding on, going, "Oh, yeah, whatever."
Jack before life jackets.
The way I remember, yeah, we just had probably a little thing around the waist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the way I remembered is, like, I'm driving, and of course I'm always looking despite having a spotter. And so I saw that start to happen, and I turn around to yes! And instead of thinking that Dick's like pointing to her, you gotta fix that, he's going, "Hey, look!
Oh my God.
How
people's memories can vary.
I'm pretty sure I had a friend with me. We could ask Bumby.
He'd remember.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm pretty sure, 'cause
Well,
we've heard that story a number of times over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, if only we just had GoPros.
back in the day.
But then Kent also came into play when I had just moved up to the Upper Valley, and I was living with Ned and Vi Coffin in South Stratford, and they were raising a goose for Thanksgiving. And so their daughter, Chrissy Coffin, who at the time I was quite enamored with, was looking for somebody that do in the goose. And so at first, in about October, plenty of weeks into the future, I thought, I'll do that. How hard can it be? And as the day approached, as we got into sort of mid-November, I just thought, I can't do that.
You did that too?
I think Bumby was.
Yeah.
involved in that too.
The dirty work. No, poor old Bumby always got dragged in.
And somehow, I don't know how we got the goose over to Lime.
Yeah, it wasn't Lime. It was down in
But there were
old park.
feathers all over the barnyard. It was just like, it just looked like a
goose chase.
you know, it looked like a chicken processing plant.
Did you? Or Bumby did? You didn't use a broomstick? You could stand on their, put the broomstick and stand on their neck and break their neck that way.
Never heard that one.
Where were you?
She was probably in elementary school. Yeah. Sorry.
I think we tried to break its neck by swinging it, didn't we?
I wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't
I
there?
You
was-
couldn't even be there?
No, I was up at the house. I just
Oh, I can do this.
I remember Sonny was there watching, and he had feathers like blowing onto him.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he was very interested.
How do you
well, no. Then I was thinking of this time when I guess I was in college. Yeah, I was, and Lori was riding at Radnor, and I volunteered to groom.
Oh, I didn't remember this.
And Beth Adams,
Yes.
um,
Came for backup.
just in case, you know, on that off chance.
So you didn't
But
quite
I
up to
had
snuff.
no idea what I was doing.
You had started riding. I mean, you'd ridden a few times at that point, so.
Oh, a lot. I've
I
been in little horse shows
I
and stuff.
know.
I mean, not little horse shows, but I mean horse shows that were small.
Yes. You didn't ride minis.
It's not like Pony Club.
Whose horses were you riding? Coffins?
No.
No, I was out in central New York.
Oh, when you were in college.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, and so I remember that Don and Abby, or Don, I don't know.
Both of them. But Abby's
Somebody had found
his mom.
had found this little place to stay, and it was just, I mean, it
$1
was.
a night.
17, okay.
Do you think it was that much? But it was one of these places. It was, you know, it was just like in the movies, the Bates Hotel or something, and the O of the neon O was, you know, not running
Said pen.
and stuff. But the thing that I remembered the most was that, so Lori and Beth Adams and I all had a room together.
I thought you ended up in a room with mom and dad.
No.
You stayed with us.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I think there was a rollout or something like that. And I remember two things. One was it was on the main line, which when you tell somebody that it's on the main line, that's supposed to be cool and oh, you're on the main line. It's, you know, but this was like really on the main line.
Yes.
It was like
Pennsylvania.
it was like the tracks were like 20 feet away across the back of this place. And so that went on all night long. But the other thing I remember was that there was no door for the
That's
bathroom.
right. There was just, that's, oh my God, I remember.
It was this sort of semi-transparent shower curtain. I think maybe you were
The green horse truck?
Yeah.
Maybe Belfast Road wouldn't have come in that truck, but
I
maybe.
don't remember that horse's name.
That was not my horse. That belonged to Tom Shire. Do you remember him? One of my sad things, because I actually won the dressage and then I ended up getting, it wasn't even a stop. You know now? It wouldn't count. It wouldn't have counted because there was a big drop.
Oh, I remember that.
And she jumped the drop and then just carried me down the hill. And I turned this way. I didn't cross my tracks and I came back and jumped it.
She went left the penalty box and
Yep.
came back.
And so now, if that happened today, it wouldn't have been a technical.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
That's for a review.
And then I had a clean show jumping, so I ended up ninth, but I would have.
There was so many times that I won dressage and then went on to have
I
something like that happen.
GMHA was in first
Yes.
place.
But you didn't, did you know it?
And after I was second place after dressage, first place after show jumping, jumped the wrong first fence.
The wrong first fence.
Cross country.
And Tim Murray was the TD, so they just let me go, and I came over the finish line, and
You've gone clean.
Kylie was there. She's like, "How was it?" I was like, "It was amazing." And then, like an hour later, Laura was like, "Why is there a TE
Yeah.
next to your name?"
Oh, and they didn't tell you. And the first fences are always the easiest ones anyway. So what difference does it make?
They had three right next
Yeah,
to each
yeah,
other,
yeah,
so they're
yeah.
like boom, boom, boom.
But they're really all similar.
Yeah, then
Oh, they're the same kind of fence.
I know.
I'm sure I picked the best
6
line.
inches
I bet you
different.
did.